Okay, guys, so to our This Week in Writing, we're going to be working on writing our own tall tale. In reading class, we're reading tall tales and talking about the elements of what makes a tall tale. And so I thought we could have some fun and write a silly story. So, to take us through this project, we're going to use this slideshow. You all have your own copy of the slideshow in Google Classroom. So, each day there's going to be a different slide that we're going to work on. You can look at the HyperDoc of writing assignments, and that'll tell you which slide you're working on every day. Okay. When you open your slideshow, the first thing you're going to see is this first slide, Tall Tales Writing Project. And it reminds you to do these assigned slides and activities each day. And we're going to remember not to change font size or style. So if you're having trouble reading it because your screen's small, remember we can always use this zoom button right here. And it'll help us zoom in, right? And then we can go and zoom out. Okay. You can also navigate Google Slides by shifting this way, right? And shifting up and down. Final thing I want to remind you about using Google Slides is that this box represents a page. So if anything I put outside this box, like over here, up top, down low, it will not show up when printed. Okay, so if we want to print your story at the end, then we need to make sure we fit everything in the box. Before we get going, here's just kind of a rundown on what the assignment is. So you will write your own short tall tale story. So it's not going to be a long narrative. It's going to be a short one. So there's a list of expectations for what you should have in this story. So just like any other tall tale, you should have this larger than life main character that has these exceptional superhuman abilities. So that's that hyperbole. We're going to make our story take place during the 1800s in America. So this is the time of that we're learning about in social studies with the gold rush, westward expansion, people moving west. You could even go later on in the century and talk about the telegraph, like we're learning in social studies this week, Pony Express, the stagecoach carrying mail, things like that. Next, your story is going to include a problem that's relevant to Americans during this time. So, as we're thinking about that period in time in America, what kind of problems did people have? Well, travel was a big problem, we know. Getting information back and forth from the East Coast to the West Coast, that was a problem as well. So, maybe we can think about those types of things. The next is that your main character is going to come up with a solution to the problem that would be impossible for someone else to perform. So we come up with our problem, and then our main character does something exceptional to solve that problem. That, again, is an aspect of hyperbole that we're learning about in reading. And then last but not least, you're going to include what we've learned about in writing class this year. So this is a narrative, so we want to have a good, strong beginning that hooks the reader in. We want to end in a strong way. We want to use lots of description and details. And we want to always remember our convention. So spelling, capitalization, punctuation, things like that. You have, we're going to be writing in a slide. So it's not necessarily going to help us out with spelling and things like that this week. But next week, we're going to convert it into a Google Doc, and then we'll be able to spell check and things like that. So don't stress too much about it. But we do want to pay attention to that stuff as we're writing in this slide. So for today, we're going to work on planning out, just brainstorming some ideas for our tall tale we're going to write. Oops. So the only slide you're going to do today on Monday is this planning slide. So one thing I did down here on a couple of these slides is I tried to help you out a little bit. So you can use this little bar and navigate through this. Okay. So the first thing we want to think of is our character. Okay. This is actually, honestly, you don't have to go into big details. Just think of a name, right? It says here you can make up your own character or choose one of the characters from the tall tales we're reading about this week. So if I wanted to use Paul Bunyan, for example, a tall tale character I've heard of before, I can just make another Paul Bunyan story. Okay. You don't have to come up with your own. If you want to, though, go for it. So I'm still on Zoom right now. So if I click, it's going to Zoom. So I'm going to grab this arrow so that I can type into this box. Okay. So I'm going to type into this box. I put little stars there. So when you click on there, you're just going to backspace. So I'll just go ahead and write Paul Bunyan because I've heard about him before. Another character, I could do Johnny Caw. We read a book about Johnny Caw this week. Or I can make up my own. Gina Hanko. Yeah, that's me, but I could also be a Telltale character. So setting ideas. Now, you don't necessarily like Paul Bunyan is my number one over here in characters. I don't necessarily need to make my number one setting be Paul Bunyan setting, right? These are just ideas. They don't really coincide with each other. Okay. So setting ideas. California, of course. Again, the time's 1800. So maybe California during gold rush time would be another setting. Maybe I'm thinking about Patty Reed's doll and them traveling. So let's go with Kansas. I'm actually also thinking about Johnny Caw because he was in Kansas. And during that time, they're setting up farms. Maybe the desert. I'm not sure exactly what desert or where, but a lot of people had to cross desert, and that was difficult. So I'm just thinking of like things that are hard during the 1800s. There's difficult settings. Problem ideas. So thinking about gold rush, maybe somebody can't find gold. Or maybe another problem could be there's something blocking a path. I'm thinking traveling somewhere and they can't get through something. Another one could be just a difficult journey. So these problems are not detailed, right? I'm thinking again of the 1800s. We're learning in social studies. What kind of problems do people have? Solution. Now this is where I'm going to do hyperbole, right? So my character has to do something amazing. So this one might actually have to coincide. So can't find gold. Maybe solution ideas. Maybe my character moves a river because rivers are a good place to look for gold. Something blocking a path. So maybe there's a mountain in the way. So maybe my character moves a mountain. Not saying how they do that yet. Just difficult journey. Maybe my character creates a lake. So like if they're crossing the desert, for example, and they're running out of water, maybe I can make a lake happen to help people out. So down here again, there's some notes that you can read. Problem ideas. No rain, too much rain, crossing the desert, bad guys like thieves, which I spelled wrong, traveling by covered wagon, mountains in the way. Solution ideas. Maybe my character creates a famous landmark. So when I say moves a river, moves a mountain, maybe that is a special mountain or something. So like moves a river. Maybe I'm talking about the Sacramento River. Mount Whitney is the tallest mountain in California. Maybe I could incorporate that. Creates a lake. I know Lake Tahoe. So I could think of specific names and we could turn it into a bit of a pourquoi too. Okay, so basically that's all we're going to do today is just think about brainstorm some ideas, okay? Now, if later on I think of a better idea, because sometimes I'll be like doing something and all of a sudden I'll be like, oh, that would be a great idea. Then I could go ahead and make changes or add a number 4 to one of these, and that would be fine too. So today we're just kind of wrapping our brain around what our task is. We're going to write a short tall tale using a character that we made up or that already exists during the 1800s, during the time we're learning about in social studies. We want to think of a problem that needs to be solved and some amazing thing our character can do to solve it. Tomorrow, we're going to grab onto one of these ideas, one of these characters, and one of these settings, and we're going to kind of outline how the story will be told.